This conference will now be recorded.
So in this class, we'll discuss about work object locking. Work object locking meaning if any of the operator is creating any of the work object ID, that has to be locked out. So it should not be accessible for any other operator. Suppose I'm trying to create one new work object ID. Okay. So one work object ID will be generated. So this CHG64 is the work object ID what I am working on. Then if any other operator is trying to access the same work object ID, it will not be accessible. It will be completely locked off. So let me log in with another operator and show you. So yesterday we have seen how to create the new operator ID, right? Names one at the red CH. So actually there will be two types of work object locking. This is also very important. Now we will be seeing something called default work object locking. When we're working with case management, we'll discuss about optimistic locking. So I have just logged in with two different operator IDs. The initial operator, this is the operator ID 1, is trying to access one work object ID like CHC64. And if another operator trying to access the same work object ID, PRPC has to throw the error. So I'm trying to access the same. Click on begin. Then we should be getting some error like CHG64 is currently being modified by one operator. So this is the concept of work object locking. So for the security reasons, PRPC will not access the work object ID to be worked on parallelly. Suppose if this work object ID I'm closing it. So operator 1 is trying to close the work object ID and now operator 2 is trying to access the same work object. Okay, now it is opening fine. Why? Because one work object has to be accessed by only one operator at a time. So if any of the operator is trying to open particular work object, one lock has to be acquired on top of that work object. So that how PRPC will be knowing. If I'm trying to open this HG1 work object ID, then PRPC has to check it somewhere whether it is already having some lock or not. Okay. So for that, it will be maintaining all the work object IDs which are locked in one table linked to class called system logs. This is very important. So system logs is a class which will be having all the instances of the logged work objects. Okay, now if I click on this, so if any of the class, if you are just clicking, it will be considered, it will be showing all the instances, right? So CHG64, so this is the work object ID that has been logged for in this application, and this is the operator ID who has locking this work object ID. Okay, so this is very important. And the important two things what you have to understand here is lock handle. By the column name itself we can able to understand the work object ID number. So technically we should be calling this as an PZ key. We'll discuss in the next class about this. We can able to see this particular work object ID has been logged, and that we can able to see under the lock handle column, and this has been logged by the operator 1, I mean claims operator 2. So whenever I'm trying to access any of the work object, suppose if I'm trying to access any other work object like CHE64, what PRPC has to do? So by just clicking on this, PRPC has to generate some OBJ open query. It has to get the corresponding record from the table and it has to display it here. And in between, it has to do one more operation also. So the operation here is what are the work object ID we are trying to access. It has to just check whether there is any such instance in the record table or not. Okay, in the log table or not. If the record is there in the log table, then it has to show the error to the next person. Okay, so if you're opening this particular work object ID like CHE60 or anything, what it has to do, it has to initially check in the table. If any of the lock acquired on this table, then it will be showing some error. And if there is no lock acquired, then it has to be open to the operator by inserting one record here. Okay, so if there is any record here, it is completely locked. It will be accessible for the first user for the first time. Now if any other operator trying to access the same work object ID, then what it has to do, PRPC has to perform the same operation. So it has to pull all the data from the database, and in between it has to just check whether that particular instance is there in the lock table or not. So now lock table instance is there, so that's why it will be showing some error and it will not be accessible to the second operator. Okay, so now the first operator is trying to complete the transaction. Now this has been logged by claims operator 1, right? I think I have closed it. Now let me open any other thing. So I'm trying to access CHG63. So what PRPC has to do, on clicking on CHG363, PRPC has to check whether any record is available in this particular table or not. If there is no record available, then it will be putting it for us here. If any record is available, now record will be available here. If we refresh it, it will be locking CHG63 also. So if we are opening this, then it will be displaying for the user, and parallelly it has to insert one record into this table also. This is just to not to display for the next user. So if that's operator 2 is trying to access the same work object ID, then what it has to do, it has to just check in this particular table. If any of such instance is available, then it has to throw some error. Okay. So ultimately, if I'm closing this, if the operator 1 who is responsible for acquiring lock on this is trying to close it now, then if I refresh it, PRPC will be automatically releasing the lock. Okay, so PRPC has to monitor all the time work object. So whether it is still in the open, whether it is still in the active status or it is closed. So if it is closed, then it has to remove the record from the table, that is corresponding class, and if it is still active, it has to put the record and it should not be made available to any other operators. So that is the concept of work object locking. Okay, so parallelly one work object cannot be worked on by multiple operators. That is the concept. So all the work object locked records will be under a class called system logs. This is important. Okay, and if there is any class which will be having instances, there should be one table also connected to that, right? And the table linked to this class will be pr underscore syslogs. So for that, what we'll be doing, we'll be clicking on definition to find out the test connection. So this is the table responsible for locking all the work objects. So if I just check in the database, so this is the table. Okay, so now as of now we have only one record, 64. Let me refresh it. Okay, so we'll be having one record here. What are the instances we are seeing in this class, it will be like an records inserted into this corresponding table. So that is the thing we are seeing here. So here we have to remember, we have to identify the operator name who has been logging that, and we have to see the lock handle. Here we can able to see this lock handle, right? Lock handle is responsible for holding the work object ID. Similarly, it will be having something like px lock handle. So these column names they will be asking in interviews. So that's why I'm telling this. So px lock handle is the important column which will be holding the work object ID, and px create operator is the column which will be showing you the operator who is responsible for locking this work object ID. Okay, now if I close any of the work object, say G64 has been opened, right? Now if that particular operator is opening it and if it is closing, then what PRPC has to do, PRPC has to complete the work object ID, and in this process it has to remove the record from the existing table, and parallel it has to remove the record from the table, and finally it has to commit. So only if it is committing only, it has to be updated in the, it has to be reflected in the database, right? So these are all the things that PRPC will be doing for us. Okay, so internally many operations will be performed by PRPC that we will not be knowing. So if we just know all this, it will be very easy for us in interview prospect. The real time, if you don't know also, no issues, but interviewers will be expecting these kind of things. Clear, no? That's the concept of work object locking. And next we'll discuss about OBJ open. So clear, right, both of you on this? Kalani, Uma?
Yes, sir.
Uma, you also right?
Yeah, but one thing where we have to apply in the program. So in a project, right, we are working in a project and we were working for the synchronous and non-synchronous process where we have to apply these concepts to implement.
So if you are working in a production support project, what they will be doing? So if any of the user, real-time user is creating any of the work object ID from their end, if they are facing any issues, what they will be doing is they will be giving you the work object ID. So they will not be having any technical knowledge, correct? So what they will be doing, so this is the transaction ID generated and this is the issue I'm facing. So this kind of just normal document they will be providing it for us. So you being a production developer or normal developer, it will be shared to your team. and you and your team, or you and any member of your team, should not able to access the same work object ID at a time. Okay, so in that process, if you want to know this particular work object ID locked by whom, then what you will be doing, you will be going to the syslogs, and you have to just check whether that particular work object ID is still open or not. If it is not open, it has to be locked by some other operator. So in this way, we can able to identify.
Okay.
Understand? But
Yeah,
real users
understood.
will not understand anything. They will be just knowing the work object ID generation, right? So they will just can able to see the work object number, and if they
Mm.
find any of the issues like we are not getting proper details, so they'll be just giving something in the document format, and that will be shared to the production support team. So if you join PEGA development as a production developer, then they will be sharing the document to you. You have to solve that as a developer technically. So first thing what you have to do, you will be getting the instance of that particular work object ID. It has been created by whom, and if it is not opening, who has logged this? So for that, what you will be doing, you will be going to the syslogs, and you have to identify the operator name, and then you can able to take the action. You can able to directly talk to him, or you can able to do something, whatever the thing we can able to do at that time.
Okay.
In real time, we can able to use
Thanks, sir.
this.
Oh,
Okay. Uma,
thanks.
you have, sorry, Tulan, you have any doubts? Clear now?
Clear.
Okay. So now we'll discuss about OBJ open. So we have already started working on OBJ methods. Okay. So I'll show you one thing. So we have seen OBJ browser method, and we have seen OBJ save also. So, and now with OBJ browse, we can able to pull multiple instances from the class. So using OBJ browse, I have to give them one class name. So ultimately OBJ methods are to interact with the database tables only. For each and every OBJ methods, we have to give the table names. For OBJ browse, we are giving table name or the class name here. Similarly, OBJ open also we have to give the one table name. So the purpose of OBJ open is from the data table, if you want to get single instance, we will be going for OBJ open. With OBJ browse, if I provide the table name or the class name, I will be getting all the instances as per my conditions applying. As per my conditions applicable. Okay. Now with OBJ open, I can able to get only single instance at a time. So the same thing, we have to provide the class name. Tulan, you facing any technical issues? So do you want me to wait?
No, Chandra, I logged in my laptop. Now it's fine.
So using OBJ browse, we can able to get multiple instances from the table name what we are providing here, and based on the conditions, we'll be getting the results. And now with OBJ open, what I can able to do, I should be giving the class name, and based on that, I'll be getting only single instance at a time. All the time, I will be getting only single instance. This is just like an page structure of a data page. So using page structure of a data page, as I told you, we can able to get only single instance, and with the list structure of a data page, we can able to get the multiple instance. The same thing here. With the OBJ browse, we can able to get multiple instances, and with OBJ open, we can able to get single instance. Now I'll show you how to use OBJ open now. So I'm giving something like sample. Or, let me show you directly here also. So I'm trying to create one more method like OBJ open. Okay, here we have to give the class name. So suppose we have already created one class to store all the details of my customer, correct? So like chg dash data dash, we have created one class like this. So in this class, I have all the data. So this is one of the data table. So this is one of the data table, and I can able to get any of the data instance, single instance using class key. So when we're defining the data table, for each and every table there should be one primary key, so that we are defining it as a class key. Even here also we are doing the same. Even when we're selecting with the states data table or the hospital data table also, we will be creating one primary key. Now if we want to pull any kind of data from any of the table, then we have to pull it only because of the primary key. So that is the importance of primary key. Why? Because rest all things might be repeating. I might be having this name for multiple times, so this will not be unique all the time. So we have to pull the data only with the primary keys. That is the class key here. So that's why here it will be asking us the class key name. Okay, using obj open we have to give the class key. Okay, similarly for the data table and for the for the states table and for the hospital table or everywhere, anywhere. So if I'm trying to give chg like 58, then I will be getting only this instance. If we see 59, I'll be getting only this instance. So ultimately we'll be getting only single instance using obj open all the time. Okay, now if I'm trying to do obj open onto this class, then you have to give the property name. So what should be the property name? You should be giving property name like this one, like customer ID. Customer ID should be my property name, and we should be giving the value like say HG58. So then if you run this, we will be getting all the data from this class with this property name with this property value like HG58. Then we'll be getting all these values stored onto one page. So for that I have to create one new page. Okay. So but with obj browse, what are the results we are getting? I am not creating any page new method. So in this method only we are going for new page. Okay, but with obj open there is no concept of asking for a page. PRPC is not asking any page in this method. For that, whenever you are using obj open, if you want to see the details or if you want to store it in the clipboard, you have to go with page new first. Okay, so once you create the new page, then after we'll be executing the method called obj open. Then we'll be defining the property name, its corresponding value. Then it has to interact with the database and pull all the instance records, and it will be placing on the page what we have creating using page new. Okay, once we get the page ready onto the clipboard, then we can able to do anything. I can able to use it wherever I want. So ultimately getting the page onto the clipboard is important for me. Once we get the page onto the clipboard, I can able to assign it to the values, or I can able to use it in the interface. And once the operation is also done, I can able to remove the page from the clipboard also. Okay, why? Because whatever the data I'm trying to pull using obj open, I want to show it somewhere in the user interface. Usually we will be going for obj open if you want to search for any customer, or if you want to do some kind of operations, I mean searching operations. Suppose if I have a text box like please enter your email ID or customer ID, and for that we'll be putting one button. So customer will be entering his customer ID, and if we just click on submit button, then we should be getting all these values. Based on the unique value, we should be pulling out all the values here. Okay, so in those kind of scenarios we will be going for obj open. Ultimately we should be getting only one value at a time. So CHG62, I should be getting his own first name, not the other names. So ultimately based on the class key, we have to identify the single instance, and these will be the applications of obj open mostly. Okay, in our real time, I mean in our course also we'll just discuss how to search for a customer using obj open. Okay, for that we'll be designing one section, and we'll be getting the data from this table. So once we get the data onto the clipboard, then what we have to do, we have to assign all this data like first name, last name, mobile number, whatever the things we're getting, that has to be assigned to the user interface. We have to see it in the UI, right? So once we get that data ready on the user interface, I can able to remove that page. Why? Because we have already copied the data from that page to from the clipboard to our user interface, right? I can able to delete the page from there. Then clipboard size will be reduced. So that is the only reason, that's it, for page removing. So clear now? So in order to perform obj open, first initially what we'll be doing is we'll be creating new page that has to be created on the clipboard. Then after we'll be going for obj open, using which we can able to get only single instance based on the class key. We should be providing one class, and there will be one specific class key for that. For each and every class which is having storage, there should be one class key. Okay. Suppose if you want to pull all the work object IDs, if I just click on here, I'll be getting all the work object IDs, right? Suppose if you want to get CHG64 work object ID from this class, what you have to do, we'll be writing obj open, and in that I'll be giving this as the class name. Okay, I'll be giving this as the class name here. Sorry, I'll be giving this as the class name, and I should be giving the property value, property name meaning primary name. So what is the primary for this class? For any class, if you want to see the primary class key, then you have to click on definition, and you can able to see something called PYID. So PYID is the primary class key for this class. Similarly, primary key for this class also PYID only. So for every work object, sorry, for every class group, primary key will be PYID. PYID is like storing work object ID only, no? And similarly for this, if you want to just see for the class key of this table, you need not go to data designer and you need not see it directly from there. Instead, you directly click on the definition, and we can able to see customer ID. I think, yeah, we can able to see the customer ID. If we just search for the states or hospitals, we'll be seeing something like state code or hospital code. So this will be the primary key or the class key. Based on this only, our table connection will be linked up. So that is the concept. So that is the reason it will be directly provided here itself. Okay. So wherever we want to get the data, we have to provide that corresponding class name and the class key, and whatever the value we are providing, that has to be passed in the runtime to this particular property like CHG58 to the customer ID. Then we'll be getting the values from this class, and it will be stored onto the new page what we are creating. Okay, so once we have this page created on the clipboard, I can able to access this data wherever I want. Like sample page, if my step page is the sample page, then sample page dot customer name, sample page dot full name. Likewise, if I have the data ready, then I can able to use it anywhere. Once the data is copied, I can able to remove the page. So now we'll just work on one practical, then we can able to understand clearly. So what is the practical we're working on here is, so when you're working with obj save, we have just inserting all these details. So now once the details are being inserted into this table, if I want to pull this data based on the customer ID, then we have to go for obj open. Now we'll be working on one assignment where I have to design one screen. In that screen, I have to put the text box for entering the customer ID. Okay, so customer ID, let's say G58 I'll be entering, and I should be putting one button for the searching. So if I just click on search button by entering this CHG58, okay. So during runtime, the CHG58 has to be passed as an input to this particular class, and based on this, we should be getting all the results. Okay. So first thing what I have to do is I have to put one text box to enter this value and one search button, and below that I have to design one small section to hold full name value, mobile number, mail ID, nominee. So these are all the things I have to create. Okay. Once we create all these, we can able to create one flow action, and we can able to link to the flow. Okay, so now let me create one section. So this, whatever the requirement we are trying to work is completely related to member search from the claim portal. Okay, so these are all the members who are registered as part of the claim reimbursement process, right? So this is completely related to the implementation application. Okay, so till now we have been completely working on the framework application. Now let me show you how to create it in the implementation application, and if you want to reuse it, how to do that. That's what we'll discuss. Now this particular example, like searching for the customer, claims customer, will be working completely with the implementation application only. First thing, I have to create one section, and in that section what I have to do is I have to create one new text box and one button for that, and I have to show all these values. So the first name, property, mobile number. Okay, so I'm trying to create one new section. So you understood, right? Requirement, both of you. I'm creating in the implementation. You observe that. I'm giving something like customer search main section, something like this. Why? Because I want to include one more section within this. I want to show that concept also. That's it, nothing more than that. So in order to show you the difference between two sections, I'm giving one as the main one, and other thing I'll be showing it as an results page. So customer search main section I'm giving like this, and I'm trying to create it in the framework, so implementation only, and this will be of second rule set. First has been logged out, so I'm creating and open. So here I have to include one text box. So for that, let me create one text box property. So like first search text box, something like this. Okay, I'm creating and open. So this should be of text input only. I'm saving this. Now let me include it here. And now let me take one button also. So let me put it side by side. So I'm just renaming it to search. So till now clear, right? So now when customer is entering his details on clicking on submit button, I have to show him some sections. I have to show him some details like first name, mobile number, mail ID, nominee. So these details. So for that, I have to create one more section. I mean, one more layout at the bottom. And in that layout, I have to include all the values related to this. So for that, I have to create one property for full name, one property for mobile number, and one property for mail ID. All these properties are to be created, right? Instead, I can able to just reuse all these properties what we have created in the data class. So these all the properties I have to include now. So which are already created for me in one of the data class. So I want to use all these properties into this particular work class. So for that I have to create one new page. So understanding it, both of you? Give something like customer search details page, something like this. Click on create and open. And this should be of single page. And this should be belonging to this class. Then I can able to inherit all the properties from this class. I'm saving it. Okay, this is saved. Now I have to create one small section and that has to be included here. Okay, so for that let me create one separate section. So this is a section which will be holding these two values mainly, and here I want to include another section like creating, I mean, to display the first name, last name, all these properties. Why I'm creating separate section, meaning what are all the results we are getting, like first name, mobile number. This particular section can be reused wherever I want. Suppose there will be cases where I have to include this section, I mean this customer basic details into one customized mail, or in one printout, so or in one email receipt, so any kind of things. So I can able to reuse this particular section in many places. If I'm trying to create directly within this another layout, so this particular section cannot be reused. Why? Because it will be having these two buttons also. Okay, getting my point? So that's why I'm creating one more section which will be holding only the basic details like customer name, mobile number, email ID. So these kind of details, basic details. So I can able to use this section in this place, or I can able to use this section wherever I want also. I can able to use this basic details in one mail receipt, or in one email integrations, or in the PDF printout, or the invoice, wherever I want I can able to display it, right? So that's why I'm trying to create one separate section for this. Let me know if you're not understanding anything.
Chandra,
Yes, Tulani.
can we use this new section as a pop-up also, right?
As a
As a pop-up, I mean like
yeah, we
not.
can do that. We can do that. So
Okay.
that will be used. That will be we seeing when we're working with local actions.
Okay. Okay.
So that's not the importance of section, that's the importance of local action. So till now we are working with the flow actions only. There will be another type of flow action called local action. So if we want to display anything such like pop-ups, then we have to go for local actions. We'll discuss. Okay. I'm giving something like results, customer search results. Clear, Tulani? Any other doubts?
No, Chandra. Clear.
So I have already included one page, right? So I'm trying to refresh it and use it here. So whatever the page I have just created, I cannot directly drag and drop. No, first I have to take the empty fields. So map all the values back to this. Okay, I'm entering these details. That's okay. Now I'm saving this. So why I'm creating this separate section separately, meaning I can able to use this section wherever I want. Okay. So now I have to include this section into here. So after we clicking on submit button or search button, we have to just perform obj open, and then after we have to show all the results here, right? Meaning that section has to be displayed with some values. Okay. So for that, let me include that section. I will just refresh this to get that section reflected. So you can just drag and drop the section also. Why? Because these two are in the same class, right? So I have to include this section. So I'm saving it. I can able to use this section wherever I want. Just simply drag and drop. So that's why I'm creating it separately. So save it as of now here. And now once this is done, I have to create one new flow action. I'm trying to include the main section. Main section will be having small section also. No? So just save this. And now, what are the flow we have just created in the main flow? I mean, this is our main flow, right? If I'm trying to include any of the customer searching thing, okay. So let me open the flow. If I'm trying to include this customer search flow action, if it is specified in this flow, then it will not be useful for the user. So user will be running this flow in order to create or in order to register one customer. And on click, if you are using any of this flow action like customer search in between this flow, it will not be useful or it will not be meaningful as well. So instead what we'll be doing is, so this kind of searching will be creating the new flow. So that's what I'm trying to do. So there will be two separate flows for them, one flow for registering the customer and one flow for searching for the customer. So before generating, if they want to just search whether the customer is already existing with us or not, then they will be initially running that flow, and based on that they can able to get the details. If the customer is not available, then they can able to run the separate flow. If I'm creating or if I'm uh, just using the flow action in the main existing flow, that is a registration page flow, it will not be useful. after this second or third screen, if I'm including the flow action, or at the last if I'm including the flow action, there is no use for me, right? Even if you include it in the first also, work object will be created by that time. So that's why in the real time we will be going with creation of separate flows for that. And even for that we will not be having any work object ID generated. Why? Because so this particular flow is responsible for creating new customer. So for this work object ID should be generated. But now what was the section or the flow action what I have just created, that is just meant for searching for a normal customer, which is the existing customer. So in order to search for the normal customer also, I have to run the flow. So in that case, if I just try to search for 10 to 15 customers per day, then it will be creating 10 to 15 work object IDs. So there is no concept of creating the work object ID in just searching for a customer. In registering a customer, it is valid. And just for searching also, you have to run the flow. And in that case, it is not the best thing to create the work object IDs. So that's why PRPC will be giving one option to make the work object ID generated temporarily, meaning it will not be generating any of the work object ID. And in this kind of scenarios, we will be going for that option. Okay. So now let me show you how to create the new flow with that particular feature. So I'm trying to create the new flow in this framework implementation. So go to the process, click on flow. Just search a flow, something like this. Click on create and open. So let me include my flow action here. So submit this, and before draft mode off, what I told you is you have to go to the process tab, and then the same process, you have to make this work object ID generated. If you mark this, work object ID will be generated, but that is not my the scenario. I have to use this particular flow, I have to run this flow in order to just check for the customer. So for that you have to make this work object ID to be generated temporarily, meaning it will not be generating any of the work object. You have to mark this checkbox. Okay, that's the importance of this. And now I'm trying to skip the previous screen. This is also we already know. So keep the draft mode off and save this. So now we understood, no? This is not reflected. You can save this. Even this is also not reflected. Okay. So now we have to run this flow.
Chandra, I have a small doubt. Why do you hide that temporary object to be enabled? Sorry, you did
Temporary.
something. Yeah.
Okay. Let me uncheck this. So you have this doubt, right? So let me uncheck it. I'll tell you the difference. So now we don't have any doubt now on this.
Yeah.
So now let me run the work object ID. I mean, let me run the flow.
Okay.
So this is what we are getting. So let me, we have some value like CHG 58. So we have not created any activity. I'm just showing you for the purpose. So if I just enter any value and click on search button, we should be getting all the details filled here. So the thing what we have to do is initially we have to hide this section, and then after we have to get all these values included into this each and every field, and then after we have to make these text boxes read only. Okay, if I get the results like this, these should not be editable, right? So this is just for the viewing purpose. I have to make this read only. Okay, so suppose if I want to search for another customer. Okay, Uma, you listen now. I'm trying to answer your question. So initially I have executed the flow. I'll be getting this screen loaded, and I will be getting one work object ID created. And if I'm trying to search for another customer, if another work object ID will be created. And if I'm trying to search for 2 more customers, then for each and everything, one work object ID will be creating. So the purpose of we creating work object IDs is to see the how many number of customers registering with us. That is our concept of creating work object ID in this case, in our application. But now I'm trying to run this flow in order to search for the registered customers. So in that case, should I need to have work object ID created for each and every search? Not required, right? Work object ID is meant for creating, is for registering the customers only. Whatever the work object ID we are generating, that we are saving it like an customer ID. Okay. But if I'm trying to create the work object ID even for the searching, that will not make any sense for the storage purpose. So
Okay.
searching we can able to done very easily. It should not be like an creating your work object ID for it, and it should not be stored into the database. And what's the concept of we storing it in the database? We'll be seeing these details on. We have already have these details in one of the data table also. So that's why in this kind of scenarios where we don't want to have work object ID created, but still if you want to run the flow, then we will be making this. If I just click on temporary temporary object, then what PRPC will be doing is on running this flow, everything will be common, but work object ID will not be generated. That is important. If work object ID is not generating, there is no concept of storing each and everything in the database. Okay. If there is no concept of storing the data into the database, there is no concept of work object locking, and there will be no concept of property optimization. All this thing will be bypassed if I'm not creating work object ID. Now clear, Uma?
Yeah, Chandra, clear.
So now if I save this and if I'm trying to run it, even though we'll be getting the same output, but we will not be having any work object ID created. If we're not getting work object ID created, we can able to skip multiple things from PRPC perspective, like storing it into the data table, and parallel it has to be updated in the PX system logs table. Likewise, there will be many things. Everything will be bypassed. Okay. So till now clear, right?
Yeah, clear.
And now if we run this flow, we can able to use this for the searching. So this is from the development perspective. That is from the developer perspective. That is from Dev Studio. But the real users, as I told you, real users will not be given access to the Dev Studios. Instead, they will be given with their separate portals. So ultimately, users and the managers are the real users. So users are the person who will be considered as an normal representatives, like credit card representatives or any low-level people. I mean, compared to application level. And any of the things, once the work object IDs are created from their representative perspective, if they have to get any approval from their manager's login will be there. So ultimately, user from real users perspective, there will be two categories, that is like user and manager. When we're working with access group, we'll discuss more. So for that, to make them easy for them, what I have done earlier, I have just given this particular main flow, registration flow, to access from it here. So did I show you anytime about the user portal? If we just click on web launch web interface, we can able to see two portals, that is case manager and case worker. If we click on case worker, worker will be like a real user. So this is how portal will be looking like for them. Okay, so if the real users will be directly given with this portal only, they will not be given access to the Dev Studio. So initially when we log off, or we'll be getting one screen to log in, right? So that screen will be common for each and everyone. So if I'm just logging with my operator ID, I'll be getting the Dev Studio. Okay, and if any of the user logging with their operator ID, they will be getting directly the studio. They cannot able to go to Dev Studio from here, and they will not be having the concept of tracer, clipboard, or anything, and the data table, data types, nothing. They have to just open this portal, and they have to search sit with the customer, and they have to collect basic details, or they have to register the customer. So for that, what we'll be doing, they'll be just clicking on new button, and whatever the thing we are trying to add it here under this new option. Okay, so that will be directly available for them. So this is how they will be creating the work object ID from their end. Okay, so they'll be entering basic details and click on submit. Likewise, the process will be common from here. Okay, so this flow they will be using for the registration. And similarly, if we want to make these users to give the option of searching, then what I have to do, I have created one separate flow. So wherever we are creating the flow, either implementation or application, that is nowhere bothered for the user. These are the real users. They will not be knowing anything. But ultimately, they have to run this flow. In order to run this flow from their end, what we'll be doing, we'll be having them the access to be launched from here. That is the concept of we giving it here. Right? Similarly, I have to give access for them to launch this search flow also. Okay, So for that, what we have to do, we have to go to definition and cases and data. So earlier we have added this flow, right? Now I'm trying to add another flow. So how many number of flows we are adding? So those many flows they can able to access from here. We should be having 2 here after we save this. Understanding now, both of you? So I'm saving this flow and adding it here. So it will not be having any work object ID generated, and I don't want also an implementation class. So what's the class? CHG. So this is the class where I have the flow. I'm saving this. So now we should be having 2 flows here. So if I just execute this, search flow has to be done, and this will be for registration flow. The same thing with the real users also. Real users, when they log in, they will be having this portal, and they should be having 2 options here. So one option they will be using for generating the flow, and another option they will be using for searching a flow. Okay. If you rename it like member search, or if you rename like member registration, they can able to launch it very easily. So they will be entering few details and clicking on search button. So they should be getting all these details. We have still not completely worked on this. So that's why we'll be getting this there. Understood now? The real users, how they will be using that. That's okay. It's easy only. So now we have to make few modifications. The thing is, we have to add one activity. On clicking on this, we have to add obj open, and then after we have to get all the results. Now let me show you how to create one obj open activity. So I'm trying to create one new activity. Something like pull saved customer. As I told you, initially we have to create one new page when you're working with obj open, and that page has to be linked to one class. So I'm giving something like temp page, temporary page, something like this. And this page will be holding the data related to this class only. Correct now? So that's why I'm linking to this class. Click on down arrow to directly select the page. Instead of we typing, we can directly click on down arrow. For the pages, everywhere for the pages, we have to directly click on down arrow. For the properties, we should be clicking on dot and then down arrow. Now I'm trying to give obj open. So obj open, I have to give the class name from which class I want to get the data. I have to get the data from this class only, and pasting it here. And the class key, what's the class key here, and what are all the values we are defining, sorry, what are the values we are pulling out using obj open. It has to be saved onto this page. So that's why I'm selecting the page. And now in this class I have to pull with the class key. For that I have to select the property. Okay. Okay. So now what are the value that customer is entering here? So customer will be entering few details here. On clicking on submit button, it has to be stored in somewhere. So click on clipboard, it will be stored into. So this is the place where I will be getting this value. Whatever the value that customer is entering here, that has to be passed as a value to this particular customer ID. So this is the thing. So primary dot customer search text box. Whatever the value we have it in the runtime, if I just pass this, that will be given as an input to this particular customer ID key. Okay. So primary dot customer search text box. So you understood, right? If I'm trying to use obj open, then it will be asking for one class. This is already known. And in this class, I should be selecting the primary key. So customer ID is my primary key. And now what should be the value of this primary key? I should be passing either 58 or 59. Any of this primary key I have to pass it, right? So that primary key I'm trying to pass it dynamically. So whatever the value that customer is entering as part of the text box, based on that only we have to get the values. So that value I'm passing it in the runtime dynamically. Understood now? So once we are done with this obj open, then we'll be getting all the details ready onto this temp page. Now let me save here and show you whether it is working fine or not. Okay, I'm trying to save. Okay, it will not be working in the standalone. So standalone, there will not be any value for the primary dot customer details, right? So primary dot customer ID. So I'm trying to run in this, whether this is working fine so far or not. I'm trying to trace it and click on run. This is successful. Close this, and we can able to see this obj open success good, and click on temp page. We can able to see all the details getting ready onto this temporary page. Whatever the page I'm creating, we're getting everything stored onto this page. So we'll be getting this page as it is on the clipboard. So once we get the page ready onto the clipboard, I can able to copy it wherever I want. So the reference for this, whatever the value I have here, I can able to copy it directly from here and can able to paste it here. So this is the place where I have to paste these values, right? So if I'm using obj open, I'll be getting all these details. These details are on temp page now. So temp page dot full name, I will be getting this one, temp page dot last name. So ultimately one clipboard page will be created with the temp page, and there I can able to get all these properties, and all these properties are to be displayed or copied into here. Okay, what we can able to do is we can able to do some property set. So here we can able to write one property set like temp page dot full name is equal to this one. So temp page dot full name is equal to customer search details dot customer ID. Okay, getting my point? So on temp page we have all these properties, and this is the page which will be having the same set of properties. So customer ID, temp page dot customer ID is equal to customer search details page dot customer ID. Similarly, temp page dot full name is equal to this page dot full name. Okay, I can able to do the property set for each and everything. So I can able to do property set for 10 different properties as per my page definition. Instead, what I can able to do is I can directly copy the data from one page to another page. The temp page is having all the values, so it should be referring to the same class. So temp page is being referred to one class. Similarly, I have to copy all this data into my corresponding page, and that's also referring to the same class. If it is of same classes, then I can directly copy the data from one page to another page. Getting my point? So temp page dot first name, I want to show it here in the customer detail search page dot first name. Okay, so properties are ultimately same. So in that process, you need not go for property set for setting each and every property. If we directly go for page copy method, then we can able to copy all the details from temp page to my corresponding page. If I get the details ready onto my corresponding page, that is this page, then I can able to refer it here. This will be directly taking the value. Why? Because this page has been copied with some other details, and it will be referring that value, and we can able to get it here. So for that, I'm trying to go for page copy. We can able to go for property set also. So I'm trying to go for page copy, and using this page copy, I have to copy the data from this page to this page. Okay. Copy the data from this page to this page. For that, I'm giving primary. So let's make it a habit. That's it, nothing more than that. Okay. So you can able to show the details here also. If you don't give it here also, no problem. Once we get the data ready, so let me save it here as of now. So I'm closing this. Let me trace it again, and I'm clearing this and running it. Run it again. Close this. Open the tracer. What we can able to see using obj open, I can able to get all the methods which is in the temp page. I have just clicked on temp page. Now After this step number 3, click on temp page. Then we should be getting the details ready. Okay, so then we have to see whether these details are getting ready onto the primary page. Okay, we have given primary, right? So during runtime, it will not understand what is primary if I'm running this in standalone. So that's why page copy is not working. We can still see the same details on the temp page only. Okay, so during runtime, we can able to see. So once we get the details ready onto this page, then whatever the property I'm referring from this page, that will be having some details. So after this, I can able to remove the page from the clipboard also. Then you can able to go for page remove also. Why? Because here only I'm trying to directly copy the data from temp page to my page. Once we get the data onto this page, then I can able to use it in the processing. So then after I can able to remove the page from the clipboard also, just to save the memory on the clipboard. Page remove, and I want to remove this page from the temp board. I'm saving this. Now I have to call this activity on clicking of the button. So on button click, I have to perform this activity, right? Go to actions, click on create. Okay, if we want to run the activity on any button click or any checkbox or anything, we have to go to actions. We have seen when we're working with refreshing, right? So go to actions and click on event. So what should be the event of this particular text box? On clicking of this, I have to run the activity. So even in the real time also, on clicking on this, we have to get the values generated at the bottom now. So that's why on click, I'm trying to call one action that is like running an activity. So for that, refresh the section. So till here we have seen already. And now I'm trying to run the activity and I want to run the, sorry, I want to refresh the section. That's what I'm trying to do. Understanding, no, both of you? Want me to explain anywhere again?
No, please, Chandra.
Uma?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so I'm just adding the activity on button click and saving this. Now let me run the flow. If it is not working, we'll trace it. So I'm giving chg 58. So click on search. So we're getting all these details. So customer ID value has been mapped to this one, and full name has been mapped. Everything has been mapped here. If we just click check in the tracer, we can able to see step by step. Let me run it now in the designer studio just to see the things what it is happening in the clipboard. That's it. So let me trace it. Tracer is already on, I think. Clear this and now give the value. So search it. So now we should be getting this. So initially everything is happening in the page copy itself. We are directly copying the data from one page to another page, and that's why we're getting the data ready. So once we get the data ready onto our page, then we can directly remove the page from the clipboard. So that is what happening. If we check in the clipboard now, we should not be having that page. Why? Because after our execution, the page will be removed off. So that is the concept. Even in the real time also, you'll be getting the data, but will not be seeing any page created on the clipboard. Why? Because once we get the data ready onto the user interface, they will be removing it. Why? Because they will be having n number of pages created for each and every work object creation. Then clipboard size will be increased, memory will be increased. Okay, then performance will be reduced. So that's why once our operation has been done, we should be removing the page from the clipboard. So that is the thing. So you can able to see here, right? Suppose if I'm giving bad input, click on search. Okay, it is not working. I mean, what are the values we are earlier got? We are still showing the same. And if I'm trying to give some other meaningful value, if the data is there, we should be getting 62 is there. It is not coming. Okay, did we hard code any value here? Okay. So it should be like primary dot customer search. Click on save. refresh this. So now I'm trying to give something like 59. So we're getting that values 60. We're getting those values. If I give any bad input, it is clearing. Okay, this value will be common now. Whatever the value we're entering it is, we are copying it. That's it. So it is working fine as of now. So the next important thing what we have to do is we have to make this read only. If I just click on search button, we can able to get all the values in the text box, which does not seems to be correct business scenario. So in that case, what we have to do is we have to make this read only. We should not be making customer or the user to make this editable. So in the next class, we'll see how to make this read only if we are getting any results, and if we are giving any bad input, then we should not be showing this section. We should be showing something like no results found or customer is not available with us or any kind of customized message. And if he's giving any good input, we should be showing this section that only in the read only format. And if we are giving bad input, we should be showing some customized message. This will be working on tomorrow. So that will be as part of OBJ open error handling. We'll discuss it tomorrow.
And Chandra, I have one more doubt. Like,
Yes.
wherever the data we are retrieving, like a CHG 58 and 59, this
Yes.
is collected from the BG admin database, right? Or
Yes, PG admin database, internal database only.
okay.
So this is ultimately getting it from this class. So where did we store this class? It will be back in the backend. It will be storing in the internal database only. This is the place.
Oh.
Got it?
Okay.
Tavani, you have any doubt?
Clear, Chandra.
Okay. Okay, we'll meet tomorrow then.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. So how do you feel today's class? I think this is a bit complicated, or